Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome in. Mary, it's so good to see your face. It is so good to see your face. It has been ages. I've missed you. I am so glad you're here.
I know I miss you too. It's been ages.
It has been ages. Welcome back. So today we are going to be talking just briefly about three core beliefs. And if you don't know what a core belief is, it's one of those unshakable beliefs that is usually buried deep in your subconscious. You may not even realize you have it, but you operate from that belief. So you don't really operate from what you learn, what you know, what you experience until it becomes a belief. And when you believe something, even if you know something else to be true, whatever you believe about yourself, when it is at your core, that is where you make your decisions from, which is where we get this conflict of, I know what to do, but I just can't seem to make myself do it. I know what to do, but I'm just not doing it. I can't get it right. And so the knowledge is there, but the belief is in conflict with what you know on the surface to be true, because there is something deeper in your psyche that says, actually, this is a bigger truth. So eat less, move more might be true. You may know that that's true. Like, I can't lose weight unless I stop overeating. But if your deep seated belief is that you just have a really big appetite, that overeating is just part of who you are, that you have a slow metabolism, then you will never apply the knowledge of how to stop overeating, because deep down you believe that you're not capable of it, or you have some other core belief that dictates how you operate. So core beliefs show up in a lot of areas of our lives. When it relates to overeating, though, we're going to just talk about three. One of them is that you are not taking responsibility for what happens in your life, also known as having an excuse for everything. Um, So it sounds really true when you're in this core belief of, I just always have an excuse. Nothing is ever my fault. And I know that sounds defeating, and it sounds like I'm trying to be, what's the word, disparaging to you, or I'm putting you down. That's not actually the case. It's just that there are so many external circumstances that this core belief actually points to powerlessness. My core belief is that I'm powerless. My circumstances dictate what happens to me. So if somebody always brings food into the office, it's like, I try so hard, but everybody around me is always eating. It is impossible to lose weight and have a social life. Everybody's eating, everybody's drinking, everybody's having fun. I can't lose weight in this environment. Or my family expects me to participate in big meals. They continue to offer me seconds, right? And so it's always these external things that lead you to a feeling of powerlessness. And that feeling of powerlessness leads to a core belief that you have to show up to please everyone else, that your external circumstances dictate your behavior instead of you being in control. So if you have the powerlessness belief, the I have an excuse for everything, and things aren't working out for you, the good news is that we as humans are very predictable. Most of us don't have a wide variety of things going on in our lives. We have the same, I don't know, dozen things that we do day in and day out, week in and week out, with very little variety. So it's pretty predictable. You start to hear your excuses, you start to learn your excuses, and then you can kind of be onto them. You can notice them and go, okay, every time I make this excuse, what am I really telling myself? So every time I say, like, hey, I tried so hard, but I got invited out again. And I really, I don't want to not have a social life. And therefore, the belief is having a social life means over drinking and overeating or whatever. Then you start hearing that excuse and you go, okay, how can I have a social life and my goals? How can I start to shift this belief that I am powerless? How can I have what I want and not sacrifice what I value? Start looking at things that way. Um, The other is that you simply don't believe it's possible. Sometimes, we talk about the habits of a naturally thin person, and that can be so triggering for people, myself included, actually, because I grew up a dieter. I grew up as someone who was always on a diet from the time I was a little girl. So I didn't have this history to look back on, like Leslie does, for example. She has her youth and her teenage years and young adult years that she could look back and go, you know, when I really didn't care too much about food, I was a lot thinner. And then when I started obsessing about food, I started gaining weight. I got into binge eating, all of these things compiled. So she had a sort of a frame of reference to look back to. I did not. When I grew up, it was always, you have a slow metabolism and you poor thing, and you're just disadvantaged and you're just like your mother. And here we are dieting together and taking diet pills and stimulants and all the things that probably were not our best choices. And so I grew up with the belief that some people were lucky and some people were not. And I never really was able to put myself in the category of a quote unquote naturally thin person. I still don't think of myself as a naturally thin person. I am someone who developed the habits of a naturally thin person, but I have no idea who I would have been had I not started my life yo-yo dieting from toddler sized, I have no idea. And so it's hard for my brain to resonate with the idea that I was ever a naturally thin person because I was always a yo-yo dieter from the time I was very young. So if you have certain beliefs that say it's not possible for me, it's possible for them, but it's not possible for me, just know that that is completely normal, but it's based on your conditioning. It's based on your lived experience, the evidence you have collected over time and reinforced and most likely borrowed beliefs from your parents, borrowed beliefs from your peers, from society, from the media, from whatever. And so if you're looking for a specific goal, if you're looking for a certain ambition, like trying to stop overeating, like losing weight, whatever, and you keep getting stuck over and over again, you need to ask yourself, why do I believe this is impossible? Why am I telling myself this is impossible? Is there something inside of me that says you can't do it anyway, so it's not worth the effort, the suffering, the sacrifice, the try? Chances are you can logically make it make sense. Like, yes, again, I can just stop overeating. That makes sense. I'm going to stop. I'm going to leave a few bites on my plate or whatever. But if deep down in your soul, in that, the dark corners of your psyche, you believe that it is impossible for you, then when the going gets tough and you're having a few tears or a stressful day or, everybody else is having fun or whatever, that core belief is going to rise up and say, it's not possible for you anyway, so why miss out? You might be able to lose weight, but you're not going to keep it off forever. Might as well not try. So I just want you to check and see, is that one of my core beliefs that I truly don't believe it's possible? Not for me, not long term. And it makes sense because if you are like me and you yo-yo dieted back and forth for decades, it's hard to believe that it's possible that someday it will be the last time you ever have to do that again and that you're actually going to stick to it sometime at some point. So I get it. The last one is that you just don't think you deserve it. This is a self-worth issue. This is, again, not believing it's possible in some way, not believing you're capable in some way, but really just deep down believing if this equals some level of happiness for me, I'm not meant to be happy anyway. I'm not meant to have peace anyway. Everybody has problems. I might as well just realize that this is going to be mine. I don't deserve to be free of chaos. And if I do fix this problem, that is only going to open up the door to what else I'm actually running from. So those of you who are in this program who have the emotional intelligence and have been working on pulling back the curtain on those emotional issues of why we overeat in the first place, you might be thinking, if I fix the overeating, then I have to face my loneliness. Then I have to face the fact that I didn't really make friends, or I don't have a social life, or I don't make as much money as I want, or I have really limited my own potential, or I don't know how to manage my stress and other things. So if I fix the overeating problem and I get the quote unquote body that I've been working for, the body of my dreams, whatever, if I woke up tomorrow, fairy godmother gave me, my goal, I would still have this life now where I would be forced to say, oh, maybe that wasn't why I was so unhappy. Now I have to look at the deeper stuff, the bigger stuff. I still have childhood shit that's unresolved. I still resent my parents for certain things. I'm still like holding myself back or feeling emotionally or socially stunted in, all of these other ways. Or I just wish I was tidier or a better housekeeper or a better wife or a better mother or a better whatever. And so just taking a step back and going, okay, well, why don't I believe that I deserve this? What is me believing that I deserve success and progress actually threatening in my nervous system. One of the big ways that I see this show up is a threat to being seen. If you're someone who grew up in an environment where being seen was a problem, misbehaving was a problem, or you were too loud, or you were, too naughty, or whatever attention was negative for you, or maybe even if you had a certain body type or something like that, you got a lot of older male attention. Actually, a lot of us did. Most women that I talked to at some point in their young life had inappropriate older male attention, things like that. It's like, oh, yeah, but this body keeps me safe. I am unworthy of having this other body because if I do, it's also a threat to me. It's also going to make me feel like I have to take care of myself in a way that makes me more hypervigilant. It's so just look at what are the core beliefs, the three core beliefs. Do I resonate with any of these? There may be others that are driving you that aren't these of these three, but these are the most common. And so people that maybe have graduated from Unstuffed or graduated from Masterful or one-on-one coaching, and they end up coming back for a touch-up, or they end up regressing or something like that, which does happen because life gets lifey, right? And these habits are so well practiced for so many years that sometimes we just go back to some of our old coping strategies when new layers of life come up. One of the things we start having these conversations about is like, well, what is the core belief that has made maintenance so hard for you? What did have you sliding back? And the first thing is like this life circumstance happened, like I got married, or I had a baby and now I need to get back on track, or I got a new job, or I moved, or like money was a problem and now we have it back again and it's okay again. And it's like, okay, but none of those things have anything to do with how many bites you put in your mouth. Not really. So now we're back to that first one of, my circumstances dictate my behavior instead of my beliefs about myself dictating my behavior. So why do we not think we deserve it? Or why do we think that it's such a threat for us? Or why do we have an excuse for everything? And I always, always, always say excuses make people feel a little twitchy. Like they're like, don't tell me it's an excuse. It's a reason. Like it's very valid. I'm like, I get it. It is so valid. The word excuse can be really triggering for people. So let me just tell you, I love your excuses. I love them so much. They hold so much wisdom into your needs, into what is going unmet. So please don't use that word against yourself. Use it in relationship with self-compassion, understanding a desire to understand yourself so that you can figure out what's really going on. What is your psychology trying to protect you from experiencing? Or what is it trying to help you experience? That's usually what excuses are. If I have an excuse, it's because my psychology doesn't want me to feel a certain kind of way, or it's trying to help me feel a way that I believe I need to feel in order to be safe and fulfilled. It's a cheap source of fulfillment. Those, pizza crusts and a few extra bites here and there and things like that. It's a poor substitute, but it seems at the time to make logical sense when it's in front of our face and on our plate. So that's really all I have to say about these three core beliefs. And I am really curious to know which one you resonate with, what stands out for you, and then, of course, any general coaching questions that we have. Looks like Leslie's popping in here and joining us as well. So happy to have her here too. So she gets to see Mary as well. I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Mary, because I haven't seen you in ages.
Hi. I think the one that now that I started talking, she's gonna talk too. I think the one that right as it starts and I'm like, okay, what's my core beliefs? What's the source of all this? Is the idea of not being worthy or not, deserving of the good stuff. But even that now, I know when I do catch myself thinking those thoughts, it's like, well, no, that's not the case. Calm down. But what lately, and why I'm glad I'm on this call. Oh, it's so helpful when I'm on coaching calls. I forgot. Um, well, why bother? It's not possible. So why bother? So I think that's kind of the perfect thing to kind of just shore up that not shore up that core belief, but shore up the tools to counter it. Cause that is kind of where I've noticed my backsliding in the last couple of weeks. So been doing really good, but then having those like, fuck it kind of pockets and being like, well, this I'm not quite comfortable committing to a full fuck it, but like let's do a 50% and like meet in the middle.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, it's still not, it's it's slowing progress, not necessarily helping progress to like have that kind of a mindset.
Right. It's interesting because it is progress. We often talk about how even if someone is continuing to binge, they tend to start binging better. Even if they're still having big overeats, what used to be a 10 for them before starting the program, all of a sudden it's like half of that food feels like a 10 now. And so
Mhm.
the improvement continues. But the belief that's behind it is what is so interesting. It's like, fuck it, or I can't be bothered, or it's not possible anyway. And so do you actually believe it's possible for you?
I do like, I feel like it's more possible now than, 3 or 4 years ago when it was just like, oh, I want to change, but I'm not doing anything and I don't understand why nothing's getting better.
Yeah.
Um, so I do think it's possible. I just think it's one of those having my thoughts about it and my actions about it syncing up. And like it's okay, here's my excuses. It's summertime and it's just a lot easier to kind of put my thoughts in a jar and just go enjoy the 3 months of the year that the city is nice to live in.
Yeah.
But even then I know like it's still bullshit.
Well,
It
what does that have to do with anything? You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah,
wonderful. I'm so happy for you that you get 3 months that you get to enjoy, poor you. I'm so sorry. It's always so cold. But you get 3 beautiful months. What does that have to do with 6 extra bites or some snacking or some fuck it eating? It literally and that's what I mean when we talk about that first core belief of there's excuse making. Your brain is
hmm,
making a connection between this is an enjoyable time of year and overeating, as if that even makes sense. Um, you're already having the cheeseburger or the French fries or
hmm,
whatever. There is nothing in the few extra bites that has anything to do with summer. Like
yeah.
it doesn't, right? It's just one way that your brain tells a story. So we just want to be really curious about why we're so attached to a story that keeps us overeating. Like why would our brain even find a story to keep us overeating? And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why it wants to make that connection. So whether it's just you kind of have some hard talk around stopping sooner because it's an old habit and breaking the habit has been challenging and fatiguing. And so then your brain's just like, well, it's summer. We don't have to work on the summer and the habits in the summer,
Yeah.
or
Well, because it's
whatever.
summertime, so going over to friends' houses and having cookouts and not sitting with being undistracted and eating and just kind of like having that grazer mentality and like catching myself feeling full later on in the meal rather than when I'm sitting at home by myself, really like cued into my plate. I
Mhm.
think that's where it's been more challenging. Um, but it's still just like, oh, I'm not taking the time to be cognizant for like 10 seconds as I'm getting my plate at a friend's house and sitting down. I'm just like in the moment in a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. This invites a little bit different of a conversation to me, but it's just basically like, okay, if I want the experience of friends' houses, cookouts, that grazing mentality, whatever, if that's happening, every Saturday or something, what is the spirit of the program? Because the spirit of the program is not perfection. The spirit of the program is not designed to make you a psycho about your food and to only have success if you know how to sit, eat it undistracted with your 9-inch plate with no one talking to you, right? It's kind of like when we have a client who has kids and they're like, but what about when I want to eat with my kids? Like, do I have to eat separately from them? Let's not be ridiculous. Um, you know, Leslie and I both also sometimes go to cookouts. Like we can handle our shit. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
People who never have dieted in their life and they quote unquote naturally thin also go to cookouts. And there are probably potato chips at their cookouts also sitting out. And so we just kind of have to look at this and see what is the spirit of the program in these circumstances until I don't have to ask that question anymore. Eventually, you won't
Yeah.
have to ask that question anymore because you're just so used to doing things the way you do them. You're discerning. But until you feel that way, until it feels like who you are, you got to ask the question, what is the spirit of my goals here? What is the spirit of the habits? How do I want to feel before, during, and after this social
Mhm.
experience? And how do I do that?
Yeah.
Maybe just checking in, after your first plate of food or halfway through your first plate of food and just kind of going, okay, what are the best bites? What's kind of left? And then when am I done with this eating experience and can just move on to the socializing?
Mhm. Yeah. And I think mostly I am getting good at, or I am good at, um, like when I'm putting my plates together, I'm good at being like, no, this is not like I don't need all of this. Like I'd rather just have a taste of this and a taste of that. And um I started seeing someone last month and he's commented on like he's joked about the fact that like the amount of leftover food I have and like that there's always food left on my plate and it's just kind of like, oh look, I have this reputation with this one person who only knows me as like not overeating and not being a member of the clean plate club. That's nice. So it is like I do see the pattern of behavior. I think the frustration is that it's slow going. Like I'm not shedding 20 pounds in a week and feeling like my outside matching my inside. I wish my outside reflected my inside because I feel like my mood and how I'm processing situations and how I'm looking at things has really changed for the better. And
But
so it's just like, yeah, like it's always that midsection. I just wish it was just a little less, but it's just what my body looks like. It's not the end of the world that like I've got residual thoughts about how my body should look.
so if we're being completely and totally honest with ourselves, do you feel like there's enough overeating happening now that it's preventing you from having the body that you want? Meaning, like, could you lose a few pounds and it would look closer to what you want without going into disordered eating territory?
I'm sorry.
So, like,
Can you ask? Yeah.
yeah, so sometimes people are just like, this is just what my body looks like. And that is totally fair. But is there enough overeating still happening that if you cleaned that up, your midsection would lean out a little bit? Like, and you wouldn't go into disordered eating territory. It wouldn't be
Oh,
forcing, it wouldn't be hungry all the time. We wouldn't be
yeah.
playing
I
the
think
macro game.
I think right now, like it's a unique time right now in that work is getting really hectically busy. They're changing our portal system. So the last month has just been
That
insanely
has
busy with
nothing to do with the
no,
question
no,
I
no.
asked.
So because there's a couple of different factors. So between work being really busy and like the summer social calendar, I've not been able to get to the gym as much as I normally do. So I think coupled with the fact that I'm not working out as consistently as I was, and the couple of overeats that I have like on the weekend, I do think that if I were to cut that out and go back to the gym, I'd be fine. It's just like the pocket of time that I'm in right now with like life happening. There's just like factors outside of my control in the work arena that is bleeding into my personal time that's impacting my ability to be as dedicated to running as I like to be. but it's
Well,
also like
running
at the
sucks
end of
for
the
fat loss
day,
unless you're doing a fuck ton of it. And so
huh?
I said running sucks for fat loss unless you're doing a fuck ton of it. So the exercise has literally nothing to do with anything at
Okay.
this conversation, because if you're exercising more, you're probably going to be a little bit hungrier, honestly, and you're probably
Yeah.
going to compensate for that anyway. Does exercise change the way your physique looks? Yes. But when it comes to, do I have a little bit of extra body fat, and is that extra body fat losable without going into disordered eating habits? It sounds like the answer to that is yes. Like your brain
Yeah.
wants to go to all these external factors. Again, we're back to belief number one. It's factors outside of my control. I'm powerless.
Yeah.
We're not powerless, right? If you got to a place where it's just like, okay, probably at, let's say, all of my dinners, I could leave behind another bite or two. I could leave a few more bites on the weekends. I'm overeating a little bit here and there on the weekends, things like that. And I'm not suggesting that you do this, okay, at all. All I'm saying is that what we believe is true is how we operate. We operate from
Hmm.
our beliefs. So if you're telling yourself, like, this is just how my body is, this is just how it looks, and then that thought dictates your behavior of overeating on weekends, and then it is in direct contrast with this other desire of yours to say, I wish my outside reflected my inside, then we're
Yeah.
not taking the action to make the outside reflect the inside. It doesn't mean that the inside work doesn't matter. You have built a beautiful foundation to make you more capable and competent in making the changes to facilitate the outside result, right? To leave a few
Yeah.
more behind. That's what the internal work does, is help you learn how to do that without freaking yourself out or going into binge mode or some other bullshit or ignoring your feelings or emotions. But that's, I just want to kind of pick apart some of these beliefs for you, because
Yeah.
the frustration comes from, but it's not showing on the outside. And that is literally because there are just more bites being taken. If we're being honest with
Yeah.
ourselves and saying, yes, I could lose some weight. Some people, it's like, I wish I looked better. And it's like, you don't need to lose a damn pound. You're at a healthy weight in a healthy body. This is as far as you need to go. Like, now we just need some acceptance and some self-love and body image stuff. But if it's not body image, self-love stuff, if it's like, I'm just carrying a few extra pounds, then we're just carrying a few extra bites and a few extra
Hmm.
beliefs that keep making us eat them.
Yeah. I think it's the latter. I think it's if I ate perfect every single time, I wouldn't have the like, oh, but it's like slow going. It's just, at the moment when I'm eating, the priority is not on making sure that I'm stopping before I'm full and uncomfortable. I'm not eating to the point of discomfort anymore, but I'm just eating more than I need to.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and then I even picked out another belief of yours where you're just like, if I did it perfectly every time, then it wouldn't be a problem, which then goes back to that kind of second belief of it's not even possible. Because if your
Hmm.
belief is I have to eat perfectly every time to lose these extra pounds or whatever, and the reality of life is that perfection is impossible, then why bother?
Yeah.
If it takes perfection, why bother? But that's not actually true. It doesn't take perfection, but it probably takes just a little more effort on these few areas that feel like no big deal or just kind of occasional or fuck it's or whatever, just kind of that back to 1% level up. And I often love the question of, if you were to drop into the program today with the habits you have and who you are, where would you start making changes? If today was your day one and you had
Hmm.
all these habits and you're just like, okay, Steph, this is my day one of the program. I want to lose some weight. Here's what I already do. What would you say, like, and here's my problem. Here's where I need to improve.
Um, I think, the challenge is always eating at night. And I think it's just the locking down the part of my brain that feels uncomfortable leaving food behind. Even when I try and serve less food to myself, and I know like, oh, like, this is more than enough, my brain still feels twitchy in a little corner of it about well, are you sure? Like, are you sure you don't want that last couple of bites? Are you sure? I think that's where my focus would need to be and continues to like be the challenge. Breakfast and lunches are the easy ones.
Okay. Anything else or just that?
I think that's my immediate like that's immediately where my brain went. So I feel like that's where the focus would be.
Okay. So if you didn't have any of the drama and the baggage of going through the unstuffed program and through Masterful and all the things, like you have all the drama of like, I've come so far, I've changed so much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't eat like I used to. Like if this was just, I was dropped on the planet today and these are my habits. And you came to me and you said, if I could just nail the nighttime eating, I would be where I wanted to be or pretty damn close to it. And the only thing I have to overcome is the sentence, are you sure? What do you think?
I mean, I felt really sure until you said it again. Um,
No, I believe that you're actually right. I actually believe
yeah.
you're right. I mean, I'm sure there's some other bullshit eating, like you said, the weekend overeating and things like that to handle as well. But I am saying to you that the only sentence you have to overcome to get where you want to go is the sentence in your brain, are you sure? You just have
Mm.
to answer the question. Yes, I'm fucking sure. Delete. Goodbye. Piece of stuff in the trash. Yes, I am sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. I should just call my refrigerator the "Are you sure?" And then that'll just reframe how I refer to the refrigerator. Yeah.
Different perspective, right? When you start
Mm-hmm.
shifting it a little bit.
Yeah.
The question, are you sure? 3 words are getting in the way of you feeling, of you never having to think the thought, I wish my outsides reflected my insides again.
Yeah. I mean, you make it sound so easy. Where
I
have
don't
I
make it sound
been?
easy, but I make it clear. Your brain is
Mm-hmm.
complicated and I make it clear.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I know it's not easy. If it was easy, you would have done it already. And I would have done it 20 fucking years ago. It's not easy. But when it's clear, it's a whole hell of a lot easier than when it's confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what problem you're solving. Right now, your brain's like, we got to solve this problem if I work too much and I can't get to the gym. And like, fuck that. The only problem you have to solve is the answer to the question, are you sure?
Yep.
That's it. Also, don't think that I didn't hear you say you're seeing someone. Like, no wonder you've been missing.
Yeah. No, life like May and June, things just kind of fell into place, and I was just like, oh my God, this is great. And like June, I stopped drink, like just okay, not drinking. And it was very much just a like, well, I'm curious to see how this goes, and just feeling very curious about um going a week without drinking, 2 weeks without drinking, 3 weeks without drinking, 4 weeks. And it's like, oh yeah, like look at me. Um, and then, that made me feel really good. So that made me feel like I should try and challenge that and go on Bumble and, you know, just luck of the draw.
There it is. There it is for you. Good. Well, good. I mean, I'm happy that you're spending some time in some happiness. And I think
Hmm.
that's great.
It's
Leslie,
nice.
do you have anything to add to? I tell you, Leslie, I've been yelling at clients lately a lot.
Yeah,
Just as kind of a
get
mood.
something off your chest.
Apparently so.
Actually, I think Kim might be a better coach in this arena than myself because Kim was obviously losing weight steadily and hit a plateau for a period of time and has started to change things and is experiencing some weight loss again, right? So she was at maintenance got maybe a little apathetic, a little, I've worked really hard to get to this point, but I do love the question. If you were starting the program today, what would your goal be? What would the steps be to achieve your goal? And y'all have been in this process long enough to know that we do break these things down into like big chunks into smaller chunks, right? So we're not trying to climb an entire mountain in one day, but we are trying to take the next few steps. So Kim, I'd like you to just share briefly, what are some actions that you've done to get kind of back into the, I guess back into consistency as it's geared more towards weight loss instead of just maintaining?
I guess I began being more accountable for like my actions and not sitting on, but I've come so far. And now I have to like, I've cut so much or I've changed so much regarding my food habits. I like stopped binge eating and all that stuff. And then you're like, oh, I have to like cut my food again, kind of not be I don't know the word, complacent in like my situation where I was at. I'm like, I lost the first 20 pounds and then it was kind of, I felt it in my clothes. I'm like, okay, it's going good. And then I kind of just maintain and I'm like, but I have more to lose. I don't want to maintain. But at the same time, I guess like I had this little voice, but I've already, changed so much stuff. And then you guys did say, well, what if you started today, the program? And I'm like, yeah. When you said, I'm like, ugh, why did they tell me this? Because it's true. And then I started really and I noticed I like picked up kind of a newish habit of like snacking in the afternoon right before I was doing something at work. And I'm like, well, I can't, even though like, but it's a small bowl of chip. It's not a big bowl like I used to. And it's like, well, it does make differences now with like my weight, or I feel that it's not like I was eating it like quickly because I had to work. I'm not gonna work with like while eating or so I'm like, well, why did I do that? So it was just really looking and having an honest look at why I was doing certain things and stop saying, oh, it's just a little, or it's so much better than it was before, because that's where I realized I maintained. So I kind of really had like Steph and Leslie's little voice, like, do you really need to be in front of your pantry right now? Do you seriously need this? Like, you ate, are you really hungry? So it's just being more accountable for my actions and just having an honest look of where I was at. Like, yes, you can be proud of everything you've achieved so far, but you're still not your future self that you want to be. So I just started being very conscious of, okay, feeling my signs, like when I'm done. And I also kind of figured like the size of my plate. Like Mary said, like I played a lot less than I used to. So I kind of figured that way too, while listening to my body's cues and whatnot. So yeah. And I feel like since I have, I have a good amount of weight I want to lose, I'm like, okay, I have to not get discouraged by this, because I'm gonna be doing it every 10 pounds or whatever that I keep losing until I get to the point where I'm happy. So I have to not get discouraged and just keep thinking, what if I was starting today? How would I eat? How would I, just listen to my body's cues. And at the end of the day, I'm really working hard to not have any drama around food, or not overthink about food, like it's just food. And I just don't want to think about food the way I used to, because I got in this mess because of how I was viewing it. So it's really just, I'm trying to focus on, I know my habits, I know my body's cues, just listen to it and stop telling yourself a story that doesn't exist around food. So yeah, I don't know if I explained this right or not, but yeah.
Well, I think I mean, there's a few things, right? You started to notice that some of your old habits started creeping back in. And even though it was still not as much as you were consuming before, and that's how it happens, just little by little by little by little. And it's easy to justify, it's easy to rationalize. But Kim, one thing that I know you have said is, you know, you initially said I need to be more strict with myself, and we kind of pushed back with that word a little bit. We're like, well, probably want to be more accountable. We want to be more in integrity. If we say we want to do something, are we following through with the things that we say are important to us? And if not, why are we letting ourselves off the hook? And letting ourselves off the hook obviously becomes a habit over time. We get used to bailing on ourselves, but we are very good at showing up for other people consistently. Or if we make an appointment, my ass is going to be there. If I tell you I'm going to call you at a specific time, I'm going to call you. Otherwise, you're going to hear from me, and I'll tell you for whatever reason I can't make it. So we don't hold ourselves to the same standard a lot of the times when we're interacting with ourselves. And that's an attribute that I don't love about myself. And it's something that we have to work towards, is being in integrity with the things that we say we want. And are we willing to do it? And if not, that's fine. Then let's just be honest with ourselves and deprioritize it. Like, this isn't important for me and at this point in my life right now. And I do that with a lot of things. I've done it with exercise. I've done it with dating. I've done it with business, right? Like, because everything can't be of equal importance all the time. Things get prioritized. But I do think that little by little by little, those sneaky little old patterns start to come back unless there is accountability and a plan. We've been saying that since day one, when you were in the Outsmart Overeating program, and when you, my dear, were in the holiday eating program forever ago, right? It was all about the two things that we know are required for success is accountability to the plan. And yeah, if we're just kind of sort of winging it, then we can just kind of sort of expect to like maybe achieve our goal. If we turn it into like a hobby or something that we only do when we're in the mood for, well, we're fucked. Because most humans are just looking to be complacent and resistance to change, stay comfortable. So there does have to be a decision. And I think that's ultimately what Steph was saying to you, is just like, make a decision and then commit. Try to get really good at talking yourself into it and stay there instead of talking yourself out of it or looking for all the justifications or reasons. It's the summer. It's like, what a sexy story, but who the fuck cares? Like, Steph, you already made the point. Naturally thin people don't think, oh, well, it's the summer, so I should like maybe eat a bit more or eat a bit less. Like, that thought isn't even, those two dots are not even like connected, I don't think. So anyway, you just have to remind yourself of what you want and stay committed. Don't lose focus. Long term, it's okay if it wanes, as it will, but I think until you get to your goal, or you're willing to get to a place of acceptance, whichever happens first, then stay the course. Kim, you decided this isn't good enough. I'm not living up to the person that I want to become. So that became your motivator. It's like, there's still more work to do here. And I will offer up, if it's work that doesn't, like, dieting feels hard, right? We can all agree that dieting feels hard. That's why we're resistant to it. That's why we eventually completely quit. With the habits at this stage, it shouldn't feel so hard. It should feel like we're working towards something and we're purposeful and aware, but it shouldn't feel like hard in the same way that dieting felt hard, or even the beginning of the program felt hard. It's just like, I have to make these 3 decisions a day at the end of my meal, and that's it. Because the other ones aren't really hard anymore, right? So the only 3 decisions I need to be really conscious or aware of is at the end of my meal, assuming that's your barrier. So that is it.
All right. Well, what do y'all think? Was this helpful? Did anything stand out to you, Kim, as one of the 3 core beliefs that hold you back or make this a challenge? I mean, you've been doing well. You're kind of on a turnaround, so we don't have to pick you apart, but I want to make sure that we're in service of you as well.
Yeah, no, for me, it's just learning my new 5s. Like I lose a bit, relearning those 5s, you know, and not being like, not telling myself, but I already cut some. Like at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you cut a lot, but you were way overeating. And when I thought, and when I was, and like Leslie said, it's true, dieting was hard because I would restrict and try everything, and it was a pain. And with your program and the habits, like it's easy, you know, as long as I put them in. I don't like saying easy because it's still work, but when you know, I did the workbooks, whatever, put everything in place, and when I think back, it is easier than all the diets I tried back, you know, back in my day. And so I just need, you know, at the end of the day, I just need to focus on the habits I've learned and really just follow my body's cues, and it's gonna tell me my new 5s, and stop telling me stories or excuses or whatever. Just focus on, well, you know, I want to lose weight. Well, I'm gonna have to revisit what my new 5 is a few times until I become that future self that I want to be. It is what it is. I just have to not dramatize or, you know, like whatever, because this is what's happening. It's just, this is the way it is, and that's what I want, and it's not the end of the world. So yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's just what I have to do. Just keep.
Well, Kim,
Same.
one quick thought is you've already proven that this system works. A lot of dieting is second guessing, starting over, trying different things, struggling with consistency. So you've already proven to yourself that it works. It's just, we just have to keep going. So I think a lot of that noise that happens when we're dieting, that self-doubt, maybe not having clarity or understanding what our real barriers are, because we're always so focused on the food instead of our thoughts and feelings and how those are influencing our behaviors, our decision-making, is just a huge asset in and of itself, which does make it feel easier. Still requires effort, but at least you know how to get to your destination with clarity now.
Yeah.
And when you go off, I don't know, the road, so to speak, you're able to get back on it because you've developed those tools.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I know, like, if I go at a party or I overeat for like one meal, it's in my mind, I'm not like, I don't think anymore like, oh, I screwed my day, and then like, oh, fuck it, I'll just eat whatever. It's actually like no big deal, and I really dialed down whatever stories I was telling myself around food, and that does help a lot. Like I can see how much a difference it just made and related to everything, actually. Yeah, like when I think back of how I was thinking about food, and yeah, it's just been really nice to not have that like chatter and going back to that like dieting talk or thoughts, or it's made such a difference. So it's been really nice. So now I just have to focus on, you know, not telling myself stories, and I know what I have to do, and just do it. It's all good. It's gonna be good.
One of the most toxic things that people in this program do is use the sentence, "I've come so far already," against themselves instead of for themselves. Instead of as encouragement, they use it as a reason to stop, to be defeated, to go back to old mindsets, to feel restricted and deprived, instead of being really proud and encouraged about how much they've changed and how great it is that they've changed, as evidence that they can continue to change and that it will be okay when they do. So this, the thought of like, I've cut so much food already. Yeah, that amount of food was for someone who was on the trajectory up the scale 20 pounds ago. That's not you anymore. You're smaller. You need less. Like that's just physics or biology, it's just the way it goes. And so it's just not, that thought is not in service of you unless you're going to use it as a way to lift yourself up. Like, look how much I've cut back and I still am not deprived. It's possible that I can make some shifts and changes now and I will still not feel deprived because my body will adjust as my behavior does. It's just something to consider.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Anything else from you, Mary, before we close this out?
No, I'm just really grateful for the time that I've been working with you guys, and I will definitely be in touch, like as things, because it's, you grow and then the world gets smaller and then you have to take another step and adjust. So I'll be in touch when I need a refresher, but I'm really feeling good about where I am and very optimistic about everything. So thank you so much.
Always, always. Well, we have very much loved and appreciated having you on the calls, getting to know you. You're our people when it comes to this work. We've just enjoyed the hell out of you. So good luck with everything. I hope you continue to enjoy your relationship for as long as it is reasonable and helpful and useful and whatever in your life.
Whoa, 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 Steph,
It sounds
Steph.
pretty new.
Yeah, that's why I say, like, just continue to
It's
enjoy
not a
it while it's
relationship.
That
enjoyable.
relationship.
It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm hanging out with someone more than once in a week.
You know
Yes.
what? I still
That's
consider
not,
that a
that's not down with
relationship. I
like
didn't
the
say it was
lingo.
a commitment. I said it's
Yes.
a relationship. Relationships have
It
varying
means something
degrees. Y'all
totally
are
different
dramatic.
nowadays, Steph.
Yes.
Nowadays, what am I,
Yeah.
100? Jesus Christ.
Well, you haven't dated.
No, you're
to
like
be fair.
long-term married, Steph.
Things have changed, and I've been surprised at the way that subtle things have changed in the language over time. And
All right, well, I am
relationship
sorry
is
I
like
used the R word.
exclusivity, but maybe not, depending.
No.
I hope you continue to enjoy your pleasurable hangout or whatever
You're
the fuck
dating.
you want to call it.
Yeah.
Um,
I hope to enjoy my dating.
Dating.
Well.
When I think about dating, I just think about dating multiple people. Like,
Well, maybe she is.
But she said
Yeah, we're not exclusive.
you missed
We-
the first part of the conversation.
We talked
I don't-
earlier. We talked about it and I was like, I'm still seeing other people. And he's like, no, see as many people as you want. Just see me more than the rest of them. So
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah.
How do you know what you like unless you try a couple of different flavors?
All right. I have been schooled. Thank you all for letting me know. I don't know how to respond to enjoy what you brought up in our coaching call or whatever it is. Have
Just
fun in
are
your
you
life.
sure?
Keep
Are
us
you
posted on
sure?
how things are going.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye, Mary.
All right.
I'll-
Bye.